So if you're going to use a pre-cut wood round, you are going to need to measure it. And then I'm going to show you on the screen how I'm going to determine how big I need to cut my pieces for it. This is the design that I'll be using for my wood sign. And so as you can see, I've put a circle around here. So that's if you're going to be actually cutting out the circle yourself, you have it, or it's so that you can size things properly. So I'm going to highlight all of this. And I need to make sure that my design will fit my 15-inch board. Okay, so that means that my sign needs to be 381 millimeters. So because my sign is so large, this is why I'm not going to be using my M1 to cut out the circle, because it would be too large for my machine's capabilities. So I'm going to make sure up here at the top, we go to 381 millimeters. That's a little too big. There we go. So we're at 381 millimeters. So now what I'm going to do before I do anything is I'm actually going to take this circle and I'm going to delete it. Okay, so now I can move around my individual pieces that I'm going to be cutting. I'm going to actually layer my flamingo. So that means each one of these pieces is going to get cut individually. But now I know that they're the correct size. So I'm going to select all of this because I'm going to be cutting everything. So I'm going to have my setting set to cut. We're going to say it's a laser flat, and I'm going to be doing the 3mm basswood plywood. Okay, so I need to go ahead and actually this is a screen capture from my last project that I was doing. So I need to go ahead and get a screen capture from my current project. This is what the wood looks like set up within my machine. I have on the honeycomb, which is sitting right up on top. See down below, I also put a piece of foil just to kind of keep my bottom layer clean and also prevent any split marks, just in case. Okay, so now, as you can see, this is what my board looks like within there, and obviously I'm not going to be able to cut all of this on one thing, so I'm going to take this and I'm just going to move it off. We're going to see how much I can fit, so I'm going to try to fit as much as I can. Oh, let me actually double check that okay, and I have it set to be my basswood setting. Now, because I'm using the honeycomb, somebody suggested that I use the open plane and then I actually have it measure because it tends to work better. So we're going to try that for this cut and see how it works. Okay, so we're going to move this leaf guy over here, move his little part of his nose, the other part of its nose over here. Squeeze in his little eye. And I think I should be able, I won't be able to fit him or the welcome, but I should be able to fit his wing in. So I'm also going to put his wing in. And then I can just use the rest of this board if I want to use it later for something else. Actually, can I get this one in there if I change the direction? Instead of his wing, I might be able to. So let me try that first. Change the direction, because again, I'm going to put the direction on put it on myself later. So it doesn't actually matter where it cuts. It matters more if I can get as much on here as possible. Okay. So do that. I don't think his wing will fit over here. Okay, so I've gone ahead and I have set up my pieces to fit on here the best that I can. I am not using the welcome or the bird because they don't fit. So for right now, I'm going to highlight those. And instead of cut, I'm going to actually click ignore. Because I want to make sure that they are not included in anything. Okay, so this is what it's going to look like. I'm going to use the framing down here to actually see if there's any chance that this will all fit, because as you can see, I'm really close to the edges and I have a feeling it may not make it. So that's why framing is going to become even more important to see how exact it is. So we're going to click the framing button here in the bottom right hand corner. Okay, so the front is glowing, which is telling me that it's ready to do the framing, and I'm going to actually show you guys the view from the side because I feel that it's the best way to be able to see where the laser is going. So we're going to push the button and look and see. That makes it in, but that does not. Okay. So I definitely put too much and it's not going to make it the full way, so we're going to adjust and try again. Okay, so my framing worked out really well because now I know things do not fit. So I'm actually going to take off this sleeve because it's too close to the edge there. And we're going to turn this. Actually, I'm just going to move this guy down here. We're going to move the leaf further in and over. I'm actually going to put this little eyepiece in here. Okay, so I'm going to try framing again to see if we fall within the piece of wood. So I need to make sure that I click this and I say ignore, so it's not going to cut it this time. Okay, now we can try the framing again. It's glowing, so it means it's ready to push. We're going to come from the side. Okay, we know that it's going to completely fit within there. And even though it's showing the top left corner of the magnet piece, it's nowhere near there, so I don't think it's going to actually come that far when it goes to cut. Because it does just a rectangle, and because it goes up so high on the other side, that's why it goes that high over on this side. So we're going to go ahead and give it a try. Okay, now that our framing is complete, and it was well within, I'm going to adjust this just slightly down because that magnet made me a little nervous. Okay, so now everything is set to cut. Okay, so right now it's at 100 power, speed is 5, passes 1. So we're going to click start. It's going to show me what it looks like before I go ahead and start it. I'm going to click start. I'm going to show you a small clip of it starting to cut, but I'm actually not going to show the whole thing because I don't think you want to sit and watch the entire thing be cut. But I will show you a quick clip. Okay, so we have our material ready. Our light is glowing. We're going to push the button, and then it should start lasering the cut. I have on air assist, and I also have on the air purifier. I'm going to go ahead and let the machine finish doing its job. The first set is done cutting. It took about 9 minutes and 33 seconds. So I'm going to go ahead and set up the second set. Okay, so our first pieces are done. I'm going to highlight all of these now, and I'm going to click ignore on the right hand side because they've already been finished and I don't want them to cut. Now I'm going to bring these pieces back in. I actually think this flamingo is going to need to go all by itself. And I'm going to now say output on that to make sure that it actually cuts. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put it here, and I'm going to try framing to make sure that it is going to fit within this piece. So we're going to click framing. So again, I'm going to do framing. I'm going to push my button that's glowing. I'm going to go from the side. Okay, it's going to just make it, so we're going to go ahead and try this. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click Start. It's going to show me a preview of what is going to cut. And I'm going to hit Start on my computer. All set up and ready to go. The front is glowing, so I'm going to push it, and it's going to start to cut our second piece, which is just the body of the flamingo. And then after this, I will set up and cut my next pieces. My second piece is done, and that took 3 minutes and 46 seconds. And go ahead and do my last pieces. So I'm going to click this flamingo and click Ignore, because we're not going to be cutting him anymore. I'm just going to stick him over here out of the way. And now I'm going to come and do my last pieces, which is just this leaf and the word welcome. Once I get my words placed correctly, I will do framing. And then once my framing is correct, I will go ahead and do my cut just like I've done before. Okay, now I've got all of my pieces cut, and we are going to work on staining our wood round and also painting all of our individual pieces. Okay, so instead of staining my wood round, I'm going to use the acrylic paint with baby wipe method. So all I'm going to do is take a baby wipe, and I'm going to put some acrylic paint on it. And I'm going to take this and I'm going to rub it over my wood round. Then I'll take a clean baby wipe and I'll be able to wipe off some of the color to get it to my desired look. Add more paint as we need to. Always try to wipe in the direction of the grain versus all over, especially as I'm getting towards the end. So make sure that it's evenly covered, and then I can take a fresh baby wipe and then wipe it off until it gets to my desired color. Again, I'm going to go in the grain of the wood. If you have an area that's a little bit darker, then you just want to go over that spot maybe a little bit more, just to make sure everything's even. So I have a spot up here where it just got a little bit too much of the paint wiped off, so I'm just going to add a little bit more. It's going to kind of blend it back in. Okay, and that's it, and then we'll let this dry, and it'll dry a lot faster than stain, and it doesn't have that stinky smell. Okay, so now we're ready to go ahead and paint all of our individual pieces. I'm going to start with the green leaves over here. And I'm just using some acrylic paint. And because these don't have any fine details, I can actually use a bigger brush to get it done quicker. It's really important when you are painting to make sure that your things are facing the right direction. So I compared it to my original SVG to make sure everything was flipped in the right direction so I wasn't painting the back on accident. So I'm going to start with the black nose up here and the black eye. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and do my pinks. Okay, so now I'm going to do the wing and its cheek. And now I'm going to end with my white. You want to be really careful when you're doing these letters because they're so thin. You do not want to break them on accident while you're painting. Okay, so we'll let this dry, and if I need a second coat, I'll do a second coat, and then we will be ready to adhere it to the sign. Okay, for my sign today, I'm going to use just some basic spray glue. It's a multi-purpose type of glue to attach my pieces. So what I'll do is I will spray this on my individual pieces, let it dry enough until it becomes kind of tacky, and then I will stick it on. I make sure that my sign is facing forward. Now, if you are using a laser where you are cutting your own wood round, you can score the design onto your sign, and that will ensure that you have perfect placement. But because my sign is larger than my laser can cut, I'm just gonna have to kind of eye it. And that's fine, because this is for me. I'm not doing this to sell, but if you're doing it to even sell, eyeing it still makes it a handmade sort of thing. And it's never going to be, no two signs are going to be exactly the same if you're hand placing it. But I just keep a picture of my SVG up on the screen, and then I look at that and kind of look at my pieces to kind of decide where to place them. Okay, so I'm just going to spray a light spray and wait for it to get a little bit tacky. I'm going to start with my 2 leaves first. Okay, so the first leaf is definitely ready to place. Okay, so my first leaf is going to come in this bottom corner. Make sure it's lined up with the edge, and then I'm just going to gently press and hold. Okay, I'm going to continue spraying and putting on my pieces one by one. I'm going to just speed up the video so that you don't have to watch me place each piece individually. Okay, that's our completed sign. I'm gonna let it dry, and then I am gonna, if this glue does not dry perfectly up here on the eye, I will touch that up with a little extra black, and then I will come back and show you guys the finished product.